Welcome back to this week's midweek mini episode of the Well House Exorcism. This is your ghost of a host with the most, Shanna.
It's conspiracy theory, PJ, today.
Why is that?
So I didn't believe you that last podcast on the left listens to us.
Okay.
I might believe you now.
Okay, why?
Because for the past 2 weeks, they've done The Warrens.
Yes, they have.
Have you listened to episode 2 of
Yes.
The Warrens? So you know what they're going to be talking about next week. At least...
Did they say?
Yes, they did.
What did they say?
The Smurl family.
Yes, that's right. See? I think they listen to us, and they get some ideas, and then they go for it.
I know, right?
All they have to do is ask us, and we'll come on. I do a lot of research. I got this.
Marcus, we know you're listening. I mean, we just know now.
It's obvious.
The jig is up. It's just time to reach out to us, and we have a crossover episode.
You can just pay me for my research.
It would be an interesting episode. Like, we're, practicing Catholics, and they are practicing atheists.
Yeah, Satanists, some of them.
Some of them, yeah.
Oh, it's okay. Oil and water, they don't mix, but they do taste good.
That's right. I think.
Oil and vinegar? Oil and vinegar.
I love their show. I think it's great.
Yes. I don't mind. We're Catholic. We know how to make fun of ourselves. It's fine.
Absolutely.
All right. Before we begin, though, I have a joke for you, PukwuPJ.
Okay.
Which monster won the dancing competition?
Which one?
The Boogeyman. You're welcome. This week is week 8 of our midweek mini episodes. It seems our listeners like your new music. Congratulations, PukwuPJ. Maggie's Casket actually said it sounds like we are going on a spooky adventure.
Yeah. I realized when I was listening to the episode in the car that the high strings are they're just underneath the surface. I thought they were louder when I was mixing it.
No, I love it.
And yeah, they're barely there.
I know. It's a little spoop. Spoop.
But all the same notes from the original theme are there.
Yep.
I just twisted them a little.
Well, I really like her comment.
And it sounds like a ghost from the 90s decorations.
Well, anyway, let's go on another spooky adventure tonight, shall we?
I'm ready.
My references for this evening are Wikipedia, The Daily Yonder, and All That's Interesting.
Where do you think they're located? Over
yonder? All right. When you go hiking,
really?
You prepare for the essentials.
Like what?
You wear the correct clothing.
Oh.
Put on your sunblock
boots.
And bug spray. Slip your feet into hiking boots.
Yeah, there it is.
And grab your hiking stick.
Wow.
You place all of your food, your water, and survival gear in your backpack, and then you don it. However, what if it would be best to also carry some ghost hunting materials? This is something hikers should consider when hiking the Santa Lucia mountain range in California.
Okay.
You interested now?
I'm ready.
See, we're already in Alcatraz. I figure let's go to...
See, how'd my parents ever let me, as an 8-year-old, just wander the forest without any kind of protection? No whistles or anything. They're just yeah, go.
That was my life growing up, too.
I know, right? But, for me, it's if
we 90s kids.
If we sent the kids out there, it's this is a rifle. You're going to take this in case you see a bear. Okay, maybe not that far, but, I would just be so nervous of sending a child out into the woods knowing what's in the woods.
I look in the eyes of a coyote, and
I never saw any coyotes.
I have memories of that.
Saw deer, lots of deer.
Well, of course. Well, they're gonna attack.
Never saw a bear either at up close.
Well, good.
Yeah, it's a good thing, but there's always that distance.
The Santa Lucia Mountains are a magnificent marvel to behold. Located in California, they rise into the sky, offering a natural wooded experience against the ocean in front of them. However, they also offer something more sinister: the Dark Watchers.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. Imagine you are walking up the mountain.
I'm imagining.
Enjoying the refreshing breeze and nature sounds. But you turn your head because something feels off. And, looking at you from a bit of a distance, is a black, tall figure staring at you. When you call out or wave at it, it simply vanishes.
Oh, saw me.
This is
I am so bad at hide and seek.
This is how most encounters with Dark Watchers are described. The Dark Watchers are described as tall, sometimes giant-sized, featureless, dark silhouettes, often adorned with brimmed hats or walking sticks. They are most often reported to be seen in the hours around twilight and dawn. They are said to motionlessly watch travelers from the horizon along the Santa Lucia mountain range. According to legend, no one has seen one up close, and if someone were to approach them, the Dark Watchers disappear. Oral tales across generations warn that approaching these specters could result in one's disappearance.
Well, that sounds counterproductive if they just disappear before you get there. How do you disappear?
Oh, well, I got some stuff.
Okay.
So, again, been doing a lot of research, okay?
Uh-huh.
So, I actually am here to debunk something, too.
Okay.
Tales of the Dark Watchers are often attached to the Chumash people of California, but apparently, these indigenous Americans don't actually have anything quite like these specters in their folklore. So if you read anything that says that it comes from their folklore and that they talked about them before the Spanish came, it's actually not true, as far as I could find. And I did some deep diving.
If there's anything I've learned in the year and a half doing this podcast so far, it's never trust anything when it's related to Native American folklore, because it's probably just some stupid white person myth. Right?
In the case of this, it's Spanish. Not white person myth. It's Spanish myth.
Still white people.
I guess so. Well, they don't burn in the sun like I do, so I think everyone else is like, olive toned at least. Must be nice. Let me put on my SPF 1000. Anyway. However, they are often featured in Spanish stories, and this is where I will take my research from.
Uh-huh.
Okay. According to the accounts of Spanish settlers, they recorded seeing these dark, massive beings starting in the 1700s. This would begin 3 centuries of sightings. Now, you see, in the early days of California, the mountain range presented a challenge to the Spanish explorers making their way to the ocean. As these explorers made their way up the mountains in the 1700s, they reported seeing the dark figures and named them Los Vigilantes Oscuros, which literally means the Dark Watchers.
Okay.
Yeah. Later, as
Wait, vigilante means watcher?
Well, you're vigilant.
Huh. Never thought of that. The more you know.
Well, I'm here to please.
Yeah.
I'm here.
I mean, it makes sense.
I don't even speak Spanish. Oh. Later, as American settlers made their way over the mountains, they too reported the feeling of being watched from above.
Mm-hmm.
Now, according to the Spanish, the Dark Watchers towered at over 10 feet tall and appeared to be draped in cloaks and donned large, wide-brimmed hats atop their heads. Other sources and sightings state that these Dark Watchers can be anywhere from 7 feet to over 15 feet. So, 10 is the average, I guess. Their folklore warns that the Dark Watchers make it their mission to observe those in the mountains below. It is unsure if they are watching to see if you abuse the land or not, but it is wise to turn away if you see one. The reason is, in their folklore, those who dared to approach these figures vanished into oblivion. So that's what the Spanish believe. Okay. So, Dark Watchers, watching you, creepy. Look like they're mountain climbers because they got their walking sticks and their wide brim hats. But don't go talk to them.
All right. Side theory.
Okay.
Sound a lot like a wizard right now. They got their stick. They got their wide hat.
Okay, Gandalf. Jeez.
There are voices in the wind.
Oh my gosh. According to Brent Swancer, who's a writer, in general, their faces are not typically seen, and they are almost always silent, usually seen at a distance up on ridges silhouetted against the darkening twilight sky. It's always around dusk or dawn, and they are quietly looking over and surveying the mountain with unknowable purpose. They vanish in the blink of an eye, especially if one is to try and draw closer. Now, legend says they are a group of migratory entities that stalk travelers along the mountain range. They are endowed with exceptional hearing and impeccable eyesight. Now, earlier, I mentioned packing ghost hunting equipment, but apparently, this is a very bad idea. Dark Watchers prefer paranormal researchers who are carrying simple possessions, like hats and walking sticks, instead of high-tech equipment. So they'll just
wizards are creatures of the land, so.
Obviously. So I when I first decided to do this, I was interested because there's so many people who put these Dark Watchers into their actual stories, like writers, like John Steinbeck is in my article or my research,
Mhm.
because he puts them in his writing, and his mother was actually a devout believer in it. So it kind of follows the Steinbeck line, trying to like figure out what these Dark Watchers are. And
Huh.
there's modern day stories too.
Okay.
So I want to discuss parts where Dark Watchers kind of like make like a little homage, if you will,
Appearances.
little appearances.
Cameos.
Yep, in writings, and then I want to try to debunk it because I don't know if I actually believe that these are real.
Okay.
This is Midwig Minis. So, like many other California writers, Steinbeck grew up on stories of the Dark Watchers. His own mother told him how she would bring food to the mountains as an offering to the creatures, only to later see flowers in the place where the food once was. So imagine you're John Steinbeck, you're writing all these, Dust Bowl kind of era writings, really well known.
Of Mice and Men,
Yep.
for example.
Yep.
Yep.
Grapes. Yeah. So
For people who are unaware of
yeah.
John Steinbeck.
Oh, of Mice and Men. Anyway.
I want to
So-
pet the rabbit. Tell him about the
The
rabbits,
rabbits,
George. Tell him about the rabbit. I get to tend the rabbits.
Just look at the flowers. Just look at the flowers. Anyway, it is important to know that Steinbeck's mother, Olive
Why do you get killed?
Olive Hamilton, was a devout believer in the Dark Watchers. Now, Thomas Steinbeck, which was John Steinbeck's son, said that his grandmother, so Mrs. Hamilton, often told tales of her days as a young teacher, riding through the remote woods of the mountains on her way to teach. She told him that she saw the Dark Watchers several times and even traded with them, leaving gifts of fruit, nuts, and flowers in a shaded alcove near Mule Deer Canyon, and she even received gifts from the Dark Watchers on her return trip.
Here are these shoes. Wow.
But, so I find that really credible in a way because she's a teacher, right?
Yeah.
So she
Not as smart, and they're not a
local.
gullible. Yeah.
And, you could chalk up to maybe there's someone living in the woods and they're oh, she brought me food. I'll give her some flowers. Oh, here is this bark that I found. Whatever, sure. So it could be coincidence, but I think that's kind of cool. But furthermore, John Steinbeck's son Thomas would grow up to report having seen the Dark Watchers during his childhood, and later, along with artist Benjamin Brodie, collaborate on a book titled In Search of the Dark Watchers, where they go into the history of the legend and interview locals who claim to have seen them, such as the famed Big Sur resident Billy Post. So they have an entire book dedicated to the Dark Watchers.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, to play devil's advocate against Steinbeck's mother, we know some pretty dumb teachers, one of which is a flat earther, who we will not name. I mean, so...
That's true. Who may have also once been a history teacher, so...
Yeah, a guy in charge of teaching maps to children.
Well, the maps are flat, so... Anyway.
Look, kids! It's right here on the table! It's flat!
The Dark Watchers are most famously given a brief mention in John Steinbeck's Flight, which is a short story from 1938. So he wrote in his short story, Pepe looked suspiciously back every minute or so, and his eyes sought the tops of the ridges ahead. Once, on a white barren spur, he saw a black figure for a moment, but he looked quickly away, for it was one of the Dark Watchers. No one knew who the Watchers were, nor where they lived, but it was better to ignore them and never to show interest in them. They did not bother one who stayed on the trail and minded his own business. So again, in one of his short stories. Now, along with this, Dark Watchers were also referenced by poet Robinson Jeffers in the poem that he literally, was part of his collection. It was about the Dark Watchers. So in his 1937 collection, it was called Such Counsels You Gave to Me and Other Poems. That was the group. So in the poem, it says, he thought it might be one of the Watchers, who are often seen in this length of coast range, forms that look human to human eyes, but certainly are not human. They come from behind ridges to watch, but when he approached it, he recognized the shabby clothes and pale hair and even the averted forehead and concave line from the eye to the jaw, so that he was not surprised when the figure turning toward him in the quiet twilight showed his own face. Then it melted and merged into the shadows beyond it. So in that case, he like makes it a human because obviously it's a poem.
Yeah.
But so you have these writers in California like actually like writing about the Dark Watchers, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stories about people who have actually seen the dark figures, and I could read their stories for ages. So I got a couple that I actually pulled from Facebook. And I have one that I pulled from one of, I think it took it from Wikipedia. But it was interesting because this is actually in a newspaper archive in the mid-1960s.
All right.
So a Monterey Peninsula local and former high school principal went on a hiking trip in the Santa Lucias when he suddenly spotted a dark figure standing on a rock and surveying the area. When the principal called out to the other hikers, the creature vanished. So I thought that was kind of interesting because, again, another credible source because, he's a principal. He doesn't want to embarrass himself. So then another one that I have here is...
All right, new theory. They're extra dimensionals.
Okay, so hold off on your theories for now because,
oh boy. Okay.
I have all the theories. So also coming from the 1960s, this one is actually from a teacher, okay? So in the 1960s, a local teacher decided to take a break from grading papers and go for a hike. While wandering the hills, she saw a tall, dark figure on a ridge. Thinking it was another hiker, she waved. But the figure did not wave. It just stood there like a creepy statue.
It raised its fist angrily.
As she got closer, the figure vanished into thin air. And then it says, she ran back to town faster than a kid trying to avoid homework, swearing she'd seen one of the watchers. Her account was detailed and earnest, describing the figure as over 6 feet tall, draped in what looked like a long cloak, with an aura of stillness that felt almost oppressive. Now, another one from the 1990s, so just 30 years ago. A dude named Bill, a rugged outdoorsman, claimed he saw not one, but a whole group of these shadowy figures while camping in the Santa Lucias. He woke up in the middle of the night to find them standing in a circle around his campfire, just watching. No sound, no movement, just standing there, like they were waiting for something. Bill, being a sensible guy, packed up his gear and hightailed it out of there before dawn. He later described the figures as feeling otherworldly, like they weren't just people but something else, something ancient and powerful. And so those were two different stories.
Yeah.
And so what is also interesting that's going to lead me into my last section is a modern hiker, many modern hikers and campers, they still report seeing the Dark Watchers. And they all describe them as being like, tall and thin. They're shrouded in shadow. They're appearing at these certain times.
Mm-hmm.
But they say, and this is as a one hiker in a most recent account, talked about how he saw a Dark Watcher on a ridge, then another, and then another, until he realized he was surrounded on all sides by these silent sentinels. He said the air felt heavy, like the calm before a storm, and he got the distinct impression that these beings were not to be trifled with. And so I like that conversation of that feeling in the air, because what I want to do now is go into the theories of what this could be.
Yeah.
Because I'm not entirely certain that they are real. I'm not going to say they're not, because it's interesting we see so much of them. But the fact that they're not in Native American lore has me question them a little bit, because you think they, we know the Navajo and people, they're afraid of skinwalkers. And they mentioned the shadow people when, you watch that skinwalker episode, right? Where they're playing their drums and
as soon as they start hearing stuff, they're like, nope, we're out.
Well, then they see the shadowy figures in the corner, like, yeah, no, we're done.
Yeah.
So I would have liked to have seen some story from Native Americans to really believe this.
Yeah.
But 300 years of sightings, something is happening up there.
Mm-hmm.
So the most common reason they think it's an optical illusion.
Yeah, especially if it happens at dusk and dawn.
When the sun's coming through a certain way.
And shadows are the longest.
Yep. It's actually known as the Brocken Spectre. And it actually comes from...
Bless you.
From Germany. So it's the most plausible explanation for the legend. Brocken Spectre, also called a mountain spectre, of course, in German, can occur in certain atmospheric conditions when the sun is at a particular angle. The subject's shadow can be cast onto a cloud bank around them, creating the illusion of a large shadowy humanoid figure. So you have the long shadows and they're bouncing off the cloud cover. Looks like an extra world, kind of like creepy being.
Yeah.
So one such theory is that the Dark Watchers are simply the results of pareidolia, a psychological phenomenon during which human brains seek out recognizable or familiar patterns and shapes in an otherwise alien or unclear image. So if it's just shadows and they're kind of branching out from somewhere, our brains are going to try to trick us into believing it's something more.
It's like whenever you look at the front of a car and it looks like a face, or an electrical outlet, and you see like the two eyes and the mouth going, "Ooh,"
Yeah.
like that's pareidolia.
Hey, my car has a mustache on the front, but...
Well, that's because we put it there.
I know, I love it. Anyway, the phenomenon is known to German locals of the Harz Mountains as the Brocken Spectre, as I mentioned. It was named after the regional Brocken I can't now. The Brocken Peak. The phenomenon sees an observer's magnified shadow plastered across the clouds. The mist, meanwhile, amplifies the shadow size before it evaporates. So, of course, you have that happening on the peaks, and they say it looks like a human, but it's not. So you have the mist amplifying the shadow with the sun coming through the right way. Bam. So that's what it sounds like what's happening on the mountain. Now, of course, many encounters with the Dark Watchers might also just be the shadows of swaying trees. Curiously, these purported beings are always encountered at high altitudes where oxygen supply to the brain is hampered.
No? Okay.
So again, I think that's...
I don't know, you have to be pretty dang high up for that, though.
I know. It's the least plausible.
Yeah.
Now, the other one that I have here, I just kind of find it interesting because we hear about hertz and stuff on Skinwalker Ranch. So,
1.6 gigahertz.
There you go. One last plausible theory of what this could be.
There's that dang signal again.
Would be this.
What the crap is that?
Infrasound.
Wow.
Infrasound is a sound between 7 and 19 hertz, just below the range of normal human hearing, and can be generated by the wind, among other things. So, again, people are saying they feel this ominous presence. That comes from infrasound. Right?
Yeah. A lot of horror movies will, like, if you ever go see a movie and it seems really scary in the movie theater, and then you come home and watch it, and, the same movie, and you're like, this movie sucks, why was I so scared? Probably because they used infrasound while you were watching it, because they have good speakers that can emit that bass level that you can't hear, but your body was picking up on it.
Yeah. Just like when we went to see Paranormal Activity.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing.
Anyway, so I wanted to kind of delve into the Hertz discussion. So in 2003, psychologist and paranormal debunker Richard Wiseman and several of his British colleagues conducted an infrasound experiment. In it, they subjected some 700 people to a concert featuring 4 pieces of music, 2 of which contained 17 Hertz tones at a volume just at the edge of human hearing. As a result, some 22% of the audience reported feeling anxious, uneasy, or fearful. Others reported pressure on their chest or chills running up and down their spine. Wiseman told the British Association for the Advancement of Science, these results suggest that low-frequency sound can cause people to have unusual experiences even though they cannot consciously detect infrasound.
Yep. In the Resident Evil movie theme, only the first one, I think is the only time they used it, Marilyn Manson, who scored it, he actually used infrasound initially, but his dog hated it so much that he took it out.
Oh, poor puppy. So they actually then wanted to add on to this research study. And so a later British study in 2008, so 5 years later, by psychologist Christopher French found that when he put volunteers in a, quote, haunted room rigged with infrasonic generators, he said, quote, most people reported at least some slightly odd sensation, such as a presence or feeling of dizziness, and some reported terror, which we hadn't expected. So, overall, no one knows exactly what these entities are. So they could be visual stimuli from refracted light. They could be the result of our fear response to the infrasound. They could be some extraterrestrial kind of being. We don't know.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
With that many sightings, it seems like, I don't know, it makes me think that something's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's just the crazy play of lights, like, for it to happen that consistently and everything, it could just be, you're on the mountain and the sun hits a certain level every day. And
it's that one tree. If we would cut it down, we wouldn't see this dude anymore.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Or it's something like an extra dimensional or, something from another dimension that just pops in.
Like a liminal space or whatever.
Yeah. there's a portal there or something like that.
See, this is one time I'm going to say that I don't believe that they're real. Sorry, California. The only thing that would stop me, like I really believe it's the Brock Inspector situation. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
with the wind blowing, it's going to add that extra, a little bit of fear, because wind can make that hurts level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're at the top of the mountain, so
it's
of
just
course
creepy
it's
noise
windy.
in general too.
Yeah. So I think it's a combination of that, and I think it's the mind trying to form something out of the shadows. However, the one thing that puts a pause on my belief is the one guy's story that he woke up and they're around his fire.
Yeah.
Because every other story, they're on ridges.
All right. Cultists.
Correct. So his story is completely unconnected.
Yep, that's it.
So I don't know. I'd like to hear from our listeners what they think. Jackie Perez lives out there. So Nurse Jackie, if you could tell us your own thoughts. Maybe you've seen the dark watchers out there. Maybe your family has.
Maybe you're going to go on a camping trip this summer. Keep an eye out.
There you go. We'll come with you. Jackie, don't take your paranormal supplies. They don't like to see those things. So
take your friend who went to the haunted hotel with you, and be like, hey, we're just going to go on a camping trip. It'll be fine. Don't tell her. Don't tell her what's happening.
Seems very mean, but okay. Yeah, so this is because I feel like we haven't debunked things in a while. It's been like, check out these ghosts, and I believe it's haunted. Yeah. This, I don't know if it's real. Just because there's no connection to Native Americans. I like when there is that validity across cultures, and I'm not seeing that connection. Mm-hmm. We're seeing it from the Spanish on, which is fine, but you'd think that the Native Americans would have seen something. Yeah. The Chumash people. Because some sources will say that it is a part of their culture, and they're called the Numenus or something like that. But that's actually not true. They do not have anything like this in their folklore at all. See,
I spend so much time debunking bullcrap on the paranormal subreddit pages. All of them. They're all horrible. There's one person's like, I woke up with scratches on my arm, and there's like a cat bed like on the floor in the background of the picture. Like, yeah, your cat. It's cat scratches.
Meow meow. Meow 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 meow.
Get out of here.
Oh, pretty kitty. That's kind of like our cat. Where the heck is Binks? Where's that monster?
No, we locked him out.
That's right. Well, that's all that I have for this week for our midweek minis. Doing anything?
Last podcast on the left team. We know you're out there.
We know you're listening. Send us a free shirt.
We know you're listening.
There's the voice I've been waiting for. You were a conspiracy theorist, PukwuPJ.
That's right.
So there's no voice. Sad. All right. So thank you all for listening to the Wellhouse Exorcism. Find us on Instagram as Wellhouse Exorcism, on Twitter X as Wellhouse_Exorc, or on Facebook under Games Overboard because we're a subsidiary. Feel free to hop on our website as well, which is gamesoverboard.com. Please email us. We want to hear from you, especially you, Marcus Parks. And as always,
think spooky thoughts.